There is a verse buried in the Book of Enoch that the architects of the modern Bible chose to exclude. It reads, in essence, that the spirits which came forth from the bodies of the giants shall be called evil spirits upon the earth, and evil spirits shall they be called forever. Forever, not for a season, not until judgment. Forever. Consider what that means. When a human being dies, Scripture offers two destinations, a place of rest or a place of reckoning. But the Nephilim, the monstrous offspring of the Watchers and the daughters of men, were given neither. They were shattered between two eternities, belonging to no kingdom, welcomed by no gate. This is not folklore invented by frightened peasants in the Dark Ages. This is a doctrine encoded in Second Temple Jewish texts, referenced by the Dead Sea Scrolls, and quietly acknowledged by early church fathers before it was buried beneath centuries of theological convenience. Tonight, the seeker will uncover the precise mechanism, the exact spiritual architecture of why these entities cannot rest, and why ancient texts insist they still search for something the living possess: a body. Welcome to Bible Secrets: Hidden History. Before this investigation continues into territory most churches will not teach, consider joining the archive. If this forgotten history deserves preservation, subscribing costs nothing, and a simple like ensures this research reaches the next seeker searching for the truth that was hidden from them. Chapter 1. The descent. To understand why these spirits are homeless, the seeker must first understand what they were. Genesis chapter 6 offers only a fragment. The sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. 4 sentences. No explanation. A door left deliberately ajar by whoever compiled the canon. The Book of Enoch fills the silence. 200 watchers, angelic beings of the heavenly host, descended upon Mount Hermon. They bound themselves by oath to break divine law, to take human wives, and to father a hybrid race. The Hebrew word used in Genesis 6:4 is Nephilim, from the root naphal, to fall. Not merely giants, as most English translations render it, but literally the fallen ones. The name itself is a verdict. Before their nature is even described, their name declares their condemnation. Their offspring were not human. Enoch describes them as growing to 300 cubits, a number scholars debate but do not dismiss, since Josephus, the first-century Jewish historian, independently confirms in Antiquities of the Jews that giants existed whose bones were preserved and displayed in his own era. This is not myth alone. This is corroborated testimony, separated by centuries, arriving at the same forbidden conclusion. Chapter 2. The Corruption. The Nephilim did not simply exist. They consumed. Enoch records that as their appetites grew beyond what the earth could sustain, they turned first to the crops, then to the livestock, and finally, the text states plainly, to mankind itself. Violence multiplied. The earth, in the language of Genesis, became filled with corruption. This corruption was not merely moral, it was ontological, a corruption of category itself. The Nephilim were neither fully angelic nor fully human. They were a forbidden hybrid, a third category Scripture never intended to exist. And this is the key the seeker must hold on to. Divine judgment, when it came, was not designed for beings who did not fit within its architecture. The Dead Sea Scrolls fragment, known as the Book of Giants, discovered among the Qumran texts, gives the Nephilim names, Gilgamesh, Hobabish, and Mahaway among them. In this fragment, The giants themselves have prophetic dreams of their own destruction, and they wake in terror. Even in their own suppressed record, they understood their fate was unlike anything that had come before. When the flood came, it erased their physical forms, but it could not erase what animated those forms. Genesis 6:4 contains a chilling clause most readers pass over without pause. And also after that, meaning Nephilim bloodlines persisted even after the flood, later surfacing again as the Anakim and Rephaim encountered by Joshua's armies. But it is what happened to their spirits, not their bloodlines, that concerns this investigation. Chapter 3. The Expulsion. Here is the mechanism the seeker came for. When a human dies, their spirit departs a body that was always meant to be temporary, dust returning to dust, as decreed in Genesis 3:19. The human spirit was designed by divine decree to exist without a body, at least temporarily, awaiting resurrection or final judgment. The Nephilim spirit was not designed this way. It was born from a union that violated the created order. Angelic spirit fused with human flesh. A fusion Enoch describes as producing evil spirits, precisely because the fusion itself was the sin. When the flood destroyed their bodies, their spirits did not ascend, because heaven was never their origin, only their father's origin, and their fathers had forfeited that inheritance through rebellion. Nor could they descend to the place prepared for the wicked dead, because that place was built for human souls under human judgment, and the Nephilim were not, by nature, human. The Greek Septuagint translation of Genesis 6:4 renders Nephilim as gigantes, but more revealing is the terminology used later in the New Testament, in 1 Peter 3:19 and Jude 1:6, which refer to spirits in prison and angels kept in everlasting chains under darkness. Early Christian exegetes, including the 2nd century theologian Tertullian, connected this directly to the Watchers and their offspring, beings held in a liminal state, neither free nor fully condemned, awaiting a final judgment that had not yet arrived. This is the exile, uprooted from two kingdoms. Enoch calls them, in one of the darkest lines in the entire text, spirits who afflict, oppress, destroy, attack, do battle, and cause destruction on the earth, not out of malice alone, but out of a desperate, unending hunger for what they lost. Chapter 4. The Hunger for Flesh. Why flesh? Why does an ancient text insist these spirits seek bodies at all? Because embodiment was the only form of existence they ever knew. A human spirit was created to know disembodied rest. Ecclesiastes speaks of the spirit returning to God who gave it. But the Nephilim spirit knew only one mode of being: housed, physical, appetite-driven. Stripped of a body, Enoch's text suggests, is to be stripped of the only reality that spirit ever comprehended. This, ancient interpreters argued, forms the theological foundation beneath a passage in the Gospels themselves, Luke 8:26-33, where unclean spirits, cast out of a tormented man, beg not to be sent into the deep, and instead request permission to enter a herd of swine. The Greek word used for the deep in that passage is abyssos, the abyss, the same term used elsewhere in Scripture for the prison of fallen spirits. The demons in that account were not desperate for cruelty. They were desperate for a vessel, any vessel, rather than face formless exile in the abyss again. Early rabbinic commentary in the pseudepigraphal Testament of Solomon expands this further, describing spirits identified as offspring of fallen watchers who explicitly seek human bodies to inhabit, precisely because embodiment is the condition their nature demands and their judgment denies. This is the forgotten lineage the modern reader was never taught. that the demonic hunger for possession described throughout Scripture may not originate from Satan's fallen angels alone, but from a second, older catastrophe: the disembodied, homeless spirits of a race that should never have existed. Chapter 5. The Final Judgment. Enoch does not leave the Nephilim spirits in permanent exile. He records a decree, a limit placed even on their wandering. Their torment, the text states, will continue until the day of the great conclusion, till the great age is consummated. A final judgment awaits them too, at the appointed hour of the great day, when the text says even these spirits will be bound and cast into an abyss of fire, prepared specifically for their kind. This is the closing mystery. Even beings born from cosmic rebellion, beings who belong to neither heaven nor hell, do not escape divine order forever. Their exile has an expiration. Their hunger has a limit fixed by decree older than the flood that first ended their bodies. The seeker now understands what the ancient scribes understood before their words were quietly removed from the canon-shaped centuries later. That not every spirit fits neatly into the categories modern faith assumes: heaven or hell, saved or damned, angel or demon. Some belong to a third, forgotten classification: exiled, homeless, hungry for what they can never rightfully reclaim. Perhaps this is why Scripture warns so consistently against occult practice, against necromancy, against opening doors best left sealed, not merely as moral instruction, but as a warning grounded in cosmic architecture. Something ancient may still be listening for an invitation. This has been Bible Secrets, Hidden History. Another sealed archive unveiled. Another forgotten mystery restored to memory. The next investigation awaits. A deeper descent into the texts they did not want preserved. Until then, the truth remains where it has always been, waiting to be found.